Naomi waited until Marcus turned toward the loading dock before she moved. Denise was still standing where he had left her, one hand gripping the edge of the metal shelf, the other pressed low against her stomach as if she could hold herself together by force. The busted water case leaked across the concrete in thin streams, crawling toward Naomi's mop bucket. Nobody bent to help. Not the stock boys. Not the cashier at the swinging door. Not the security guard who had stepped close enough to see, then stepped back like the whole thing was contagious. Naomi slid her phone deeper into her pocket, stopped the recording with her thumb, and picked up Denise's employee bag from the floor. "Come on," she whispered. Denise shook her head once. "He said I'm terminated. You're still breathing. That comes first." Naomi put Denise's arm over her shoulder. The woman was heavier than she looked, not from weight, but from fear. Her knees kept softening. Every few steps she tried to apologize.
"I'm sorry.
"I don't want to get you in trouble." Naomi tightened her hold. Trouble already found this place. At the employee exit, the guard blocked them with one hand. Marcus said she has to sign the exit form before leaving the building. Denise closed her eyes. Naomi looked at the guard's name tag. "Calvin, call a supervisor if you want. But if a pregnant woman collapses while you're guarding a form, your name goes in the report too." Calvin's jaw shifted. He glanced toward the office, then pressed the release button. The door buzzed open. Outside, the afternoon heat bounced off the asphalt. Denise made it as far as the cart returned before her breath caught. Naomi sat her down on the curb, pulled off her own gray overshirt, folded it, and placed it behind Denise's back. Then she opened the rideshare app on her phone. The nearest car wanted $42 because of surge pricing. Naomi stared at the number for half a second. She had spent more than that on coffee meetings with people who said the word efficiency like it was holy. Still, she used the card linked to her undercover account, not the black corporate card hidden in her real wallet.
No shortcuts.
No proof that could expose her before the evidence was ready. "I can take the bus," Denise said. "Not today." The car arrived with a cracked windshield and a pine air freshener swinging from the mirror. Naomi helped Denise into the back seat and climbed in beside her. At the urgent care, Denise hesitated at the front desk when they asked for insurance. "My benefits ended when he fired me," she said, voice barely there. Naomi paid the deposit before Denise could stop her. The receptionist slid the receipt across the counter, and Naomi folded it into her pocket like another piece of evidence. While they waited, Denise reached into her tote bag with shaking fingers and pulled out a wrinkled schedule sheet. "I wasn't supposed to keep this," she whispered, "but I started noticing the marks." Naomi unfolded it carefully. Red dots beside Denise, Tasha, Maribel, Keisha. All women. All reassigned from register or apparel to freight within 2 weeks of reporting pregnancy. In the margin, someone had written 2 letters beside Denise's name. NL. Naomi looked up. "What does NL mean?" Denise swallowed. "No lift. That's what HR approved." Marcus crossed it out the next day. A nurse called Denise's name. Before Denise stood, she caught Naomi's wrist. "Why are you helping me?" Naomi looked down at her crooked badge, the cracked plastic clip still holding on. "Because somebody should have helped sooner." By the time Naomi returned to the store, her shift was almost over. Marcus was waiting near the janitor closet with a printed warning in his hand.
Une autorise d'absence.
Interfering with management. Leaving assigned area. He slapped the paper against her chest. "Your hours are cut. Nights only. Bathrooms, trash, and loading dock. You wanted to act important, so let's see how important you feel cleaning what everyone else leaves behind." Naomi took the paper without arguing. Behind Marcus, the schedule board hung open for one careless second. The red dots were gone. The red dots being gone should have made Naomi feel relieved, but it did the opposite. It meant Marcus knew someone had noticed. It meant the pattern had not disappeared. It had only learned how to hide. She stood in front of the schedule board with the warning paper folded in her fist, watching Marcus lock the glass cover with a tiny silver key. He slipped the key into his vest pocket and smiled at her reflection. Night shift starts tomorrow, cleaner. Don't be late. Naomi did not answer. She pushed her mop bucket down the back hallway, past the smell of bleach and old cardboard, past the break room where employees lowered their voices the moment she entered. In the janitor closet, she took off her gloves and looked at her hands. A thin line of cardboard dust sat under her nails. Her phone buzzed once. A message from Denise. Baby's okay. Blood pressure high. Thank you. Naomi leaned her forehead against the cool metal shelf and let one breath leave her body. Only one. Then she straightened, took a photo of the warning paper, and sent it to a secure folder under a name that had nothing to do with Cartermart. By midnight, she was no longer in the gray shirt. She stepped into the private elevator of a glass residential tower downtown, still carrying the cleaner's badge in her palm. The elevator mirror showed a different woman under the harsh light. Smooth brown skin tired around the eyes, hair pinned back beneath the wig cap, one small gold bracelet on her wrist that she had forgotten to remove. The bracelet had belonged to her mother. Inside her penthouse, the city stretched under the windows in clean lines of traffic and office lights. Nothing smelled like bleach there. Nothing squeaked or leaked or begged to be fixed. Naomi set the crooked badge on the marble kitchen island beside the gold bracelet and a framed photo of her mother standing in front of the first Cartermart. Back when it was just one neighborhood grocery store in Decatur. Her mother wore jeans in the picture, sleeves rolled up, hands on her hips, smiling like work had not defeated her yet. Naomi touched the frame. You said people would tell me numbers first, she whispered. You didn't say they would erase people to make the numbers behave. Her laptop was already open. On the screen was the company board packet for the upcoming sale vote. Labor costs, liability exposure, regional efficiency rankings. Store 47 sat near the top, praised for exceptional staffing discipline. Marcus Reed's name appeared in a small note beneath it. Recommended for regional operations track. Naomi's mouth tightened. A second name appeared on the executive memo. Evelyn Brooks, regional director, recommending Marcus for advancement. Naomi clicked into the HR dashboard using a restricted owner access account she had not touched since her mother's funeral. Her finger hovered over the search bar. One command could expose everything. One email from her real account could bring legal, security, and corporate communications down on Store 47 before sunrise. But all she had was one video, one marked schedule, one frightened woman, and a warning slip. Marcus would say Denise was emotional. Evelyn would say Naomi misunderstood store operations. The board would say she was jeopardizing a billion-dollar transaction over an unverified workplace dispute. Naomi closed the dashboard without sending anything. Not because she was afraid of Marcus. Because a truth without proof could be buried faster than a lie with paperwork. She opened a folder labeled Safe Shift and uploaded the photo of the warning, Denise's schedule, the urgent care receipt, and the audio from her pocket. As the file saved, something in the recording caught her ear. Marcus's voice was clear, but behind it came another sound. A scanner beep, then a woman's voice from the office doorway saying, "Keep it clean before the regional visit." Naomi played it again. The voice was not Marcus. It was calm, polished, familiar from executive calls. Evelyn Brooks. Naomi sat back slowly. If Evelyn had been there, then the abuse was not just happening under management. It was happening within earshot of power. Her phone lit again, this time from an unknown number. One line appeared on the screen. If you're really trying to help, check the camera above loading bay 3 before Marcus does. Naomi stared at the anonymous message until the screen dimmed. Then she locked the phone, slipped it back into her pocket, and finished scrubbing the loading dock floor as if nothing had happened. Night crews survived by pretending not to notice anything. Cameras noticed. Managers noticed. Gossip noticed. People who looked invisible stayed alive by moving slowly. At 10:47 p.m., Marcus walked through the dock with a clipboard tucked under one arm and a cup of gas station coffee in the other. He stopped beside Naomi without looking directly at her. "Corporate's doing a surprise operations review tomorrow night," he said. "Every inch of this dock better shine. If I find one dirty corner, I'll make sure you're cleaning parking lots instead." Naomi nodded once. Yes, sir. Marcus studied her for a second longer than necessary before walking away. It was not the threat that bothered her. It was the way he had started watching her. The moment he disappeared into the office, Naomi wheeled her cart toward loading bay 3. The security camera sat high above the overhead door inside a steel cage, angled toward the freight entrance. At first glance, nothing seemed unusual. Then she noticed the lens pointed several degrees too high. Instead of covering the loading zone where employees lifted freight, it captured mostly the ceiling beams. Someone had loosened the mounting bracket on purpose. She crouched beside the dock leveler, pretending to scrape dried tape from the concrete while taking 3 quick photos with her phone. Fresh wrench marks surrounded one of the bolts. They were clean enough to have been made within the last few days. Before she could inspect further, a forklift engine echoed behind her. Cleaner. Naomi stood immediately. The driver, an older black man named Curtis, lowered the forks and climbed down. You'll lose your fingers if you keep reaching under there. Just cleaning adhesive. Curtis glanced toward the office windows before lowering his voice. Don't waste your time looking at cameras. Why? Because cameras only remember what management lets them remember. He walked away before Naomi could ask another question. His words stayed with her. A few minutes later, an email notification flashed across every employee computer in the receiving office. Subject: Regional Leadership Visit. All department heads were ordered to prepare reports. Marcus barked instructions from his doorway like a drill sergeant. Every pallet counted. Every incident report updated. Freight records printed before 6. Naomi quietly memorized the phrase freight records. After midnight, the warehouse settled into its rhythm. Conveyor belts hummed. Barcode scanners chirped. Shrink wrap crackled around stacked merchandise. Naomi emptied trash bins outside the inventory office when she noticed the door standing slightly open. Inside, a young inventory clerk rubbed his temples while staring at a spreadsheet filled with shipping weights. System froze again? Naomi asked casually. The clerk laughed without looking up. Wish it was that simple. Half these pallet weights changed overnight. Says bottled water weighs 22 pounds now. Does it? Not unless gravity quit. He shook his head. Marcus says just print it and stop asking questions. Naomi smiled politely and pushed her cart onward. But every word settled into place beside Denise's schedule and the audio recording already saved on her encrypted drive. The heavy freight had not become lighter. The numbers had. Somebody inside the system was rewriting reality before reports reached headquarters. Near the end of the shift, Marcus called everyone together beside receiving. Regional Director Evelyn Brooks had arrived earlier than expected. She stepped through the warehouse in a tailored navy suit and spotless heels that somehow never touched a speck of dust. Employees straightened instantly. Marcus's sharp voice melted into warm professionalism. Good evening, Ms. Brooks. We've exceeded every labor target this quarter. Evelyn smiled, accepting a neatly prepared folder. Excellent work, Marcus. This is exactly the discipline our company needs. As she turned to leave, her eyes drifted briefly across the line of hourly workers and stopped on Naomi. Only for a heartbeat. Then she looked away. Who's the new cleaner? She asked. Marcus answered too quickly. Temporary hire. Quiet. Hard worker. Evelyn gave one small nod before continuing toward the office. Naomi watched the office door close behind them. Through the narrow glass panel, she saw Marcus place another folder on Evelyn's desk. A red folder, the same color as the disappearing marks, beside pregnant employees' names. Then Marcus slowly turned his head toward the window and looked directly back at Naomi. The red folder stayed in Naomi's mind long after Evelyn's office door closed. It had moved too smoothly from Marcus's hand to the desk, like a thing prepared before anyone asked for it. Naomi waited until the warehouse noise swallowed the office voices, then rolled her cleaning cart toward the inventory cage. She did not rush. Rushing made people visible. She sprayed a line of disinfectant across the counter, wiped slowly, and let her eyes travel over the printed freight reports stacked beside the terminal. Bottled water, 22 pounds. Laundry detergent, 18 pounds. Bulk rice, 12 pounds. Naomi almost laughed, but there was nothing funny about a lie printed in black ink. She had approved enough distribution contracts to know the real weights by memory. Those numbers were not mistakes. They were protection for someone. A soft voice came from behind the snack rack. You shouldn't stare at those too long. Naomi turned. Tasha stood there in a cashier vest, one hand resting near her stomach even though her belly barely showed. Her braids were pulled into a low ponytail, and her eyes kept jumping toward the office. Marcus checks who touches reports, she whispered. Naomi folded the damp cloth once and wiped the counter again. Then I'll make sure the counter looks clean. Tasha hesitated, then reached into her pocket and handed Naomi a bent receipt. On the back, for names were written in blue pen. Denise, Maribel, Keisha, Tasha. Beside each name was a date. Those are the days we gave paperwork to HR, Tasha said. The next schedule after that we got freight, freezer, or trash runs. Naomi looked at her. You kept this. I was scared not to. A forklift beeped nearby, and Tasha flinched. Naomi saw it then. Not just fear of losing a job. Fear of becoming proof and punishment at the same time. Does anyone else know? Tasha shook her head. My sister. That's it. I need the insurance. I can't disappear like Denise. Naomi wanted to tell her she would not disappear. She wanted to say the Carter name and watch the fear leave Tasha's face. Instead, she placed the receipt under the cracked plastic of her own N. Carter badge, pressing it flat against her chest. Then we move carefully. Tasha frowned at the badge. Why keep wearing that broken thing? They got fresh clips in HR. Naomi looked down at it. Because people talk differently when they think plastic is the only thing holding you in place. For the first time, Tasha almost smiled. The moment broke when Marcus stepped out of the office. Register 3 is waiting, he called. Tasha moved quickly. Naomi turned back to the cleaning cart, but her hands were already busy. She photographed the fake freight weights, then opened the inventory terminal while the screen was still awake. A manager login had been left active. Marcus's initials sat in the corner. MR. Naomi did not download anything. That would leave a trace. She used the report preview function, took silent photos of the edit history, and captured the timestamps. Every weight change had happened between 10:12 and 10:19 p.m. the night before the regional visit. The edits were approved under Marcus's login, but reviewed under another code, EB. Evelyn Brooks. A door clicked. Naomi closed the preview and sprayed the screen just as Marcus entered. Why are you in here? Trash bag split, Naomi said, lifting a leaking liner from the bin. A sour smell filled the small office. Marcus stepped back in disgust. Then take it out. She obeyed, carrying the dripping bag through receiving while water and coffee grounds streaked the floor behind her. It looked humiliating, felt useful. Every employee watched Marcus wrinkle his nose while Naomi cleaned a mess he would never touch. But Curtis, the forklift driver, saw the terminal. He saw the report still glowing faintly before it timed out. Later, near the cardboard baler, he parked beside Naomi and handed her a small black flash drive hidden inside an empty gum wrapper. Bay 3 camera backs up local for 24 hours before it gets wiped, he said. I pulled what I could. Naomi closed her hand around it. Why help me? Curtis looked toward Tasha at the registers, then toward the office. My daughter was 7 months pregnant when a warehouse job worked her until she bled. Different company. Same language. Naomi's broken badge pressed against the receipt over her heart. For the first time, the disguise was no longer only a test. It was a promise she had not earned yet. Across the floor, Marcus watched Curtis walk away. He waited until Naomi pushed her cart into the janitor closet. Then he opened the red folder, removed a printed incident form, and wrote her name at the top. Marcus did not accuse Naomi right away. That would have been too clumsy, and Marcus Reed was not clumsy when he wanted people to believe him. He waited until the next shift meeting, when the morning crew, night crew, cashiers, stockers, and security guards were gathered between the break room and receiving. Evelyn Brooks stood near the office door with her tablet in hand, calm and polished, the kind of woman who could make a workplace warning sound like a sermon. Marcus stood beside her with the red folder tucked under his arm. His voice was gentle when he began. "Team, I want to address something serious. Carter Mart is a family, and families are built on trust." Naomi stood near the back with her cleaning cart, one hand resting on the mop handle, the broken end Carter badge clipped to her shirt. Tasha was 2 rows ahead, shoulders stiff. Curtis stood near the forklift chargers, arms crossed. Marcus opened the folder. "Recently, we've had missing discount vouchers, a tampered inventory terminal, and a safety incident involving unauthorized access to restricted areas." A few employees turned before Naomi even heard her name. That was how lies worked in a place full of fear. People did not need proof. They needed someone low enough to blame safely. Marcus lifted a printed form. "The employee involved is temporary cleaning staff." Evelyn did not look surprised. She looked disappointed, which was worse. "Naomi," Marcus said, finally turning to her, "please step forward." The room parted with small, guilty movements. Naomi walked through the gap. Her shoes stuck slightly to the concrete where spilled soda had dried near the vending machine. Marcus held up a clear evidence bag. Inside were 3 Carter Mart employee discount vouchers and a small bottle of cleaning solvent. "These were found in your janitor closet." Naomi looked at the bag, then at the red folder. "Who found them?" "Security." Calvin, the guard by the door, swallowed hard. Marcus glanced at him. Calvin nodded once, not proudly. "And the solvent?" Naomi asked. Marcus's face remained calm. "Same closet, same shelf, the same type used near receiving when a slip hazard was reported." Evelyn's tablet clicked as she made a note. "We take safety very seriously." Naomi looked around the room. Some faces avoided hers. Some watched with open relief because the trouble had chosen someone else. Tasha's eyes were wet, but she kept her mouth shut. Marcus softened his voice. "I don't enjoy this. I gave you a chance after you abandoned your post to interfere with another employee matter. But when someone breaks trust, we have to protect the team." That was his mask. Protector. Responsible manager. The man who made hard decisions so everyone else could work. Naomi felt the trap tighten, but she did not step into the part he had written for her. She did not shout. She did not say who she was. She looked at the evidence bag again and noticed the vouchers were clean, too clean, no bent corners, no lint, no damp spots from the janitor closet shelf where everything always sweated under the broken pipe. The solvent bottle still had an unbroken plastic seal. New. Planted quickly. "May I see the incident report?" she asked. Marcus blinked once. "That's not your concern. It has my name on it." Evelyn finally looked up. "Give it to her." Marcus hesitated, then handed Naomi the top sheet. She took it by the edge. The report said the spill happened at 11:35 p.m. near Loading Bay 3. Naomi's eyes moved down the page. Witness: Marcus Reed. Reporting manager: Marcus Reed. Reviewed by Evelyn Brooks. She looked at the floor, not from shame, but to hide the small shift in her face. At 11:35, Marcus had not been near the spill. He had been inside Evelyn's office, visible through the glass panel, handing her the red folder. Naomi had the time-stamped photos of the fake freight reports from 11:32. Curtis had the backup camera footage from Bay 3. The lie had given itself a clock. "Do you have anything to say?" Marcus asked. Naomi folded the report once, carefully, and held it out. "Yes, someone should check the camera before the backup expires." The air changed. Marcus's jaw tightened so fast most people missed it. Evelyn did not. "What camera?" she asked. Marcus gave a short laugh. "The cleaner is trying to distract from theft." Then he turned to the room and raised his voice just enough to wound her publicly. "Empty your pockets, Naomi." Curtis took one step forward. Naomi shook her head slightly, warning him not to help. She placed her phone, keys, and a folded urgent care receipt on the metal table. Marcus saw the receipt and picked it up. Denise Washington's name was printed near the top. His smile returned. So now we know why you really left your shift. He turned the receipt toward Evelyn. She used company time to involve herself in a former employee's personal matter. Tasha covered her mouth. Denise's private pain was now a weapon in Marcus's hand. Naomi reached for the receipt, but Marcus pulled it back. This stays in the file. Evelyn's voice was quiet. Naomi Carter, pending investigation. You are suspended from all Carter Mart property effective immediately. The name sounded strange in her mouth, ordinary and official, not powerful at all. Marcus stepped aside and pointed toward the employee exit. Naomi picked up her phone and keys, but not the receipt. Calvin opened the door for her without meeting her eyes. As Naomi crossed the threshold, her badge clip snapped at last. The plastic rectangle fell face up on the concrete. N. Carter. Marcus looked down at it, then back at Naomi, and for the first time his expression was not disgust. It was calculation. Naomi stepped into the parking lot with the broken badge in her palm, and the employee door locking behind her like a verdict. For a moment, the store looked exactly the way corporate photos always made it look. Bright windows, full carts, clean red signs, families moving in and out under the Carter Mart logo as if nothing inside could hurt anyone. Then her phone vibrated. Tasha. Naomi answered before the second ring. At first there was only breathing, sharp and frightened. Then Tasha whispered, "He put me on freezer freight." Naomi stopped beside a row of carts. "You're supposed to be on register." "He said my doctor's note isn't in the system anymore." A metal crash sounded through the phone, followed by Marcus's voice in the distance. "Move the pallet or clock out." Tasha sucked in a small, broken breath. "Naomi, I think something's wrong." Naomi looked back at the employee entrance. Suspended from all Carter Mart property. One step through that door and Marcus could turn her into trespassing, theft, unstable behavior, whatever story he needed next. "Where are you?" "Receiving. Near freezer 2. The call muffled as if Tasha had lowered the phone. Naomi heard another voice, Calvin's. Nervous. "Marcus, maybe she should sit." Then Marcus. "Security doesn't manage my labor." Tasha gasped once. Not loud, but enough to make Naomi move. She ran to the front of the store, not inside, but along the sidewalk to the glass wall beside customer pickup. Through stacked displays of charcoal and cases of soda, she could see the receiving corridor in broken pieces. Tasha had one hand against the freezer door frame, her face bent toward her chest. Marcus stood in front of her with the clipboard like a shield. Calvin hovered near the emergency exit, useless and ashamed. Naomi dialed 911 with one hand and lifted her phone with the other. The cracked screen split Marcus's body into two jagged halves as it recorded through the glass. "Pregnant employee in distress at Carter Mart store 47, Naomi said, her voice low and steady. "Receiving area. Manager is preventing assistance." Inside, Tasha slid down the wall. That finally made Calvin move. He reached for the emergency latch. Marcus grabbed his wrist. "Open that door and you're done here." Naomi kept filming. "No buy. No access. No power anyone inside would recognize. Only a phone, a locked door, and the choice not to look away." The ambulance lights arrived 6 minutes later, red flashing across shopping carts and Naomi's face. Marcus tried to meet them at the front entrance with his manager voice, but Calvin had already opened the side door. Paramedics rushed past him. When they lifted Tasha onto the stretcher, she turned her head toward the glass and saw Naomi outside. Her lips moved around one word. "Thank you." Naomi lowered the phone only after the ambulance pulled away. Her hands were shaking now, but not from fear, from the weight of what the footage meant. Marcus had not just fired people. He had created danger, then punished anyone who named it. A black SUV rolled up near the curb. Evelyn Brooks stepped out, still in her navy suit, her hair smooth, her face controlled. She looked at Naomi, then at the phone in her hand. "You're not allowed on this property." Naomi's voice came out quiet. "I'm on the sidewalk." Evelyn glanced toward the ambulance disappearing down the road. Something flickered in her expression, too small to call regret. You don't understand the full context. That sentence landed harder than Marcus's threats. Not because it was loud, but because it was the language powerful people used when the truth was bleeding in front of them and they still wanted a meeting first. Naomi opened her palm. The broken badge sat there. N. Carter scratched across cheap plastic. For days, she had thought the badge was only a disguise. Now she understood it differently. It was a witness. It proved exactly where she had stood when the company chose paperwork over people. Her phone buzzed again. Curtis. One message. Got Bay 3 backup. Marcus asked IT to wipe it tonight. Naomi looked at Evelyn. Then at the store her mother's name had built. Tell Marcus, she said, closing her fist around the badge. Not to delete anything he isn't ready to explain under oath. Evelyn's face changed. Naomi turned away before the woman could answer. She opened a secure call to the one person on the board who had never liked her, because dislike was still cleaner than loyalty bought by silence. This is Naomi Carter, she said. I need an emergency evidence hold on store 47. Now. The emergency evidence hold froze store 47 faster than any alarm could have. By morning, Marcus could still bark orders, but he could no longer erase what the building had seen. IT pulled the Bay 3 backup. Legal copied the scheduling records. Payroll. Exported every hour change connected to Denise, Tasha, Maribel, and Keisha. Naomi sat in a small conference room above the store, still wearing yesterday's black work pants. Her cracked phone plugged into a laptop with a white cable. Across from her, board member Richard Ellison adjusted his glasses and said the one thing she needed him to say. I don't believe people. I believe patterns. Show me the pattern. Naomi did. She placed the fake incident report beside her time-stamped photos. Marcus said I caused a spill at 11:35. At 11:32, I was photographing freight records. At 11:35, Bay 3 footage shows the floor already dry and Marcus inside Evelyn's office. She clicked again. Curtis's backup footage appeared. Marcus loosening the camera bracket, then looking over his shoulder before walking away. Richard's face hardened. Evelyn stood near the wall, arms folded, no longer polished enough to seem untouched. I reviewed what Marcus gave me, she said quietly. Naomi turned the laptop toward her. You reviewed edited weights under your code. The screen showed EB beside the approval log. Evelyn opened her mouth, closed it, then looked down. By noon, Cartermart announced an emergency town hall in the store's receiving area, the same concrete space where Denise had been fired and Tasha had collapsed. Employees stood in rows between pallets and shrink-wrapped displays. Marcus arrived with his red folder, chin lifted, still believing paperwork could outdress truth. This is harassment, he said before anyone asked him anything. A temporary cleaner stole documents, trespassed, and manipulated frightened workers. Naomi stood near the loading dock, the broken N. Carter badge pinned back to her shirt with a safety pin. She did not correct him yet. Richard stepped forward with a microphone. Mr. Reed, did you terminate Denise Washington for refusing assigned work? For insubordination and failure to perform? Did her file contain a no-lift restriction? Marcus glanced at Evelyn. Not to my knowledge. Naomi pressed a key. Denise's HR form appeared on the warehouse screen. Signed, dated, approved. A murmur moved through the room. Marcus shook his head. That document was never on my schedule. Naomi clicked again. The red-dotted schedule appeared, then the edited version with the dots removed. You locked the board after I saw it, she said. But Denise had already kept a copy. Marcus's smile thinned. That proves nothing. Then explain the weights. The next slide showed bottled water changed from 41 pounds to 22. Laundry detergent cut nearly in half. Bulk rice marked light duty. Marcus lifted his hands. System errors happen. Naomi played the audit log. MR edited.
Revised.
Time stamped. The room went silent enough for the freezer fans to be heard. Evelyn's face lost color. Marcus took one step back. My login was used by multiple people. Naomi nodded once, as if she had expected that. That's why we checked the camera. Curtis's footage filled the screen. Marcus at the terminal. Marcus printing the reports. Marcus slipping vouchers into the janitor closet. Calvin, the guard, covered his mouth with one hand. The planted evidence that had made Naomi look guilty now made Marcus look careful, practiced, and afraid. This was taken out of context, Marcus said, but his voice had begun to crack. Naomi did not raise hers. So was Denise's pregnancy. So was Tasha's pain. So was every woman you turned into a labor cost. She connected her phone. The final video opened with jagged lines across the cracked screen. Tasha bent near the freezer, Marcus blocking Calvin from the emergency door, his own voice clear. Open that door and you're done here. Someone sobbed in the back. Tasha, sitting in a folding chair with a hospital bracelet still on her wrist, held Denise's hand. Marcus lunged toward the laptop. Richard stepped between them. Don't. Naomi reached for the broken badge and unpinned it slowly. You kept calling me cleaner like it meant I had no power. She placed the badge on the metal table. My name is Naomi Carter. My mother founded this company. And now every person in this room knows exactly what you did under her name. The warehouse erupted, not in cheers, but in the sound of truth finally escaping. Gasps, crying, chairs scraping. Marcus saying no again and again while the screen behind him kept playing. Marcus kept saying no until the word stopped sounding like a denial and started sounding like a man trying to hold a locked door shut with his bare hands. Richard Ellison did not argue with him. He asked security to collect the red folder, the terminal logs, and Marcus's store keys. Calvin stepped forward, slower than he should have. But this time he did not look away. Marcus turned on him. You work for me. Calvin swallowed.
No.
I worked under you. The keys hit the metal table with a small final sound. Evelyn Brooks removed her badge next. Her hand trembled as she placed it beside Marcus's. I approved reports I didn't question, she said, facing the employees instead of the board. That made me part of what happened. Naomi watched her without softening the truth for her. An apology was not repair. Not yet. Denise stood only after Tasha squeezed her hand. She walked to the front with the careful steps of someone who had been forced to carry too much for too long. You fired me like my baby made me useless, she said to Marcus. I want my job record cleared. I want my insurance restored. And I want every woman you pushed out called by name. Marcus looked at the floor. He had no clipboard now. No folder. No title strong enough to hide inside. In the weeks that followed, his termination was not announced as a quiet personnel change. Carter Mart referred the case to the State Labor Department and opened a legal settlement process for every affected worker. Evelyn was removed from regional leadership and required to testify in the internal investigation before she was allowed to apply for any role that involved people management again. Calvin kept his job, but only after signing a statement about the times he had stayed silent. Naomi did not let the company buy forgiveness with flowers and gift cards. She sat across from Denise, Tasha, Maribel, and Keisha in a plain conference room with paper cups of coffee, not cameras, and asked them what safety should have looked like before everything went wrong. Their answers became the Carter Safe Shift policy. Independent pregnancy accommodations, protected light-duty work, emergency medical access no manager. Could block camera audits outside store leadership, and an employee council with real power to review scheduling patterns. The first meeting happened in the same receiving area where Denise had been humiliated. This time, the heavy water cases were stacked waist-high with bright labels showing their true weight. No false numbers. No red dots. Naomi arrived wearing a simple black blazer, but clipped to it was the broken N. Carter badge, repaired with a safety pin. Some employees stared at it. Tasha smiled when she saw it. Denise touched the edge of the table where the badge had exposed the truth and whispered, Your mama would have liked this. Naomi looked toward the loading dock, where the concrete still held faint stains from old spills and old fear. Then she picked up the mop Marcus had once ordered her to use and placed it in a glass case beside the badge. Not as a joke, not as shame, but as a reminder. The lowest job in the building had shown the highest office what it had refused to see. And from that day forward, every new Cartermart manager had to walk the floor for one full shift without a title before they were trusted with one.